halfway through the week. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Lee-Jun in Seoul. The U.S. slapped safeguard measures on imports of washing machines and solar panels on Monday, which is expected to deal a heavy blow to Korean manufacturers. Now, such a decision came as American manufacturers have petitioned against rising imports, saying they were eating into their sales and demanding that the Trump administration defend American workers and businesses. Meanwhile, authorities here in Korea held an emergency meeting with industry officials yesterday, saying that the government will file a petition with the World Trade Organization against the U.S. government. And before we sit down with an expert to talk more about this, let's first check on what's making the news at this hour with Devin Whiting at the News Center. Good afternoon, Devin.
Hi, June. Well, our top story this afternoon, a team of 12 South Korean inspectors are in North Korea on this Wednesday, looking around the North's tourist showpiece, Masingyeong Ski Resort. It's the second day of their three-day survey of facilities that'll be used in events leading up to the Olympics in South Korea. Another facility they're looking at is the nearby Galma Airport, which has been proposed for use in bringing in South Korean delegates and athletes. At the resort, the team will check whether the slopes and trails are suitable for training alpine and cross-country skiers. They'll also take a close look at the accommodation facilities. The North has requested that the two Koreas hold 2 days of joint training for their non-Olympic skiers. There's another inspection team from the North due to come to the South on Thursday to check out the Olympic stadiums and accommodations the same day the South Koreans return home. North Korea says its women ice hockey players will arrive in the South in the next 24 to 48 hours to join up with their South Korean counterparts as they prepare to compete in the Olympics as a unified team. And aside from the sports, there are also performances and concerts by North Koreans in the works to celebrate the PyeongChang Games, and the North has chosen 2 venues for those. The decision was reached after a delegation led by the North's most famous pop star inspected a number of potential venues in the South. Lee Seung-jae has the details.
After a close inspection of some of the possible concert venues for the North Korean Art Performance Group, the North Korean delegation led by Hyun Sung-wal, the head of the North's Samjiyeon Orchestra, has selected 2 concert venues to celebrate the 2018 PyeongChang Winter Olympics. According to the South Korean Unification Ministry on Tuesday, North Korea said its art troupe hopes to perform at the Gangneung Arts Center in Gangneung, a coastal city located about 260 kilometers east of Seoul, and one of the Olympic venues along with PyeongChang on February 8th, and the National Theater of Korea in Seoul on February 11th. The North added that its delegation, which includes a 140-member art performance group of orchestra, singers, and dancers, plans to cross the land border into South Korea on February 6th for the concerts, before returning home on February 12th. North Korea has also confirmed that it will send a 15-member ice hockey team of 12 players, a head coach, and 2 support personnel to South Korea on Thursday. The South had proposed that they arrive as soon as possible for training with their South Korean counterparts ahead of competing as a unified team. With the world's biggest international winter sporting event kicking off in PyeongChang in right around a fortnight, hopes are high that the end result will be a more peaceful peninsula. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
South Korea's presidential office of Chung Hyeon says Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe will most likely attend the opening ceremony of the PyeongChang Winter Olympics. A Blue House official confirmed on Wednesday that Japan has officially requested talks on the visit through the Japanese embassy and said the 2 sides will work out the details. According to the Sankei Shimbun, a leading Japanese daily, Abe reportedly said he would like to attend the opening ceremony if circumstances allow to cheer on Japan's national team. There had been speculation he would boycott the opening ceremony because of difficulties between Seoul and Tokyo over the issue of Japan's wartime sexual enslavement of Korean women. The Moon administration recently said the 2015 bilateral agreement on the issue was seriously flawed, but it will not seek to renegotiate it. If Abe comes, the visit would likely include the first bilateral summit between him and President Moon since that announcement was made. A cold wave warning has been issued for most parts of South Korea, with temperatures dropping below -15 degrees in certain regions. This is by far the coldest it's gotten so far this winter. Lee Jung-yeon has the details.
freezing temperatures hit South Korea this week. On Wednesday morning, Seoul saw them drop down to minus 16 degrees Celsius, the lowest it's been so far this year. Coupled with icy winds, the feels-like temperature is estimated to be minus 23 degrees. It won't get much warmer in the afternoon, with highs expected to be around minus 10 degrees. A cold wave warning has been issued in the capital as well as parts of Gyeonggi-do, Gangwon-do, and Chungcheong-do provinces. This warning is issued when the morning lows dip at least 15 degrees from the previous day to under 3 degrees, and when they're 3 degrees below the annual average. It can also be issued when morning lows stay below minus 15 for 2 consecutive days.
The current temperatures are attributed to the cold air from the north of Mongolia, with temperatures down to minus 30. This air is blowing into the Korean peninsula.
The expert adds that the cold air from the north travels down sporadically, and Seoul also saw similar temperatures in 2016.
It's not that there's a unique reason for the cold this year. It's a part of the cycle of cold wind coming down from the north.
Temperatures may continue to be low for the time being, at least until February, but experts forecast that the current conditions may be the coldest it'll get this winter. Lee Jung-yeon, Arirang News.
In other news, Korean tennis star Chung Hyeon has written another chapter in tennis history at the Australian Open. On Wednesday, Chung beat American tennis Sandgren in the quarterfinals 6-4, 7-6, 6-3 to become the first Korean to reach the semifinals of a Grand Slam tournament. Sandgren was ranked 97th going in, and Chung was ranked 58th. But the win is expected to push Chung into the world's top 30 players, which would break the record for Korean men set in 2007 by Lee Hyung-taek, who ranked 36th. At 21, Chung is the youngest Grand Slam semi-finalist in 8 years and the lowest-ranked Australian Open semi-finalist in 14 years. Chung is set to face the winner of the match between world number 2 Roger Federer and 19th seed Thomas Berdych in the semi-finals this Friday. I'm Devin Whiting, and those are your news headlines for this hour.
And coming back to the latest U.S. safeguard measures in which Washington plans to slap tariffs on Samsung and LG washing machines as well as solar panels exported to the U.S. And before we sit down with an expert to discuss further about this topic, our Chung Hyeon explains how the latest decision made in tune with Trump's America First policies could affect Korean manufacturers.
The U.S. Trade Representative's office announced a list of safeguard measures that the U.S. plans to impose on imports of Samsung and LG-made washing machines and solar panels. U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer said Tuesday that U.S. President Donald Trump has made his final decision on the issue, adding that President Trump's decision clearly reflects his willingness to defend American workers and businesses. With the latest announcement, a 20% tariff will be applied on imports of washing machines under 1.2 million units and a 50% tariff on imports exceeding the quota in the first year, with tariffs falling by 2% and 5% per year respectively for the following 2 years. On imports of products in the solar industry, the tariff rate will be set at 30% and will be reduced to a 15% tariff rate over the next 4 years, with the first 2.5 gigawatts being exempt from the tariff. The new safeguard measures, which come 16 years after the U.S. imposed tariffs on imported steel products in 2002, are expected to deal a big blow to Korea's manufacturing firms. Samsung and LG, two of Korea's major electronics manufacturers, have been exporting a combined $1 billion a year of large residential washing machines to the U.S., with Samsung holding 16% and LG 13% of the U.S. washing machine market share. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
And to tell us more about the latest U.S. safeguard measures and how they might affect Korean businesses, Professor Shin Sang-hyuk from Kyung University joins us in the studio today. Welcome to the program.
It's great to be here.
All right, so first and foremost, tell us about these safeguard measures in detail.
Well, the safeguard measures actually, normally the governments are taking the safeguard measures in order to protect their local producers. In fact, there are three prerequisites for the safeguard measures. The first one is there must be a dramatic increase of imports of a specific items or products from foreign country. Secondly, there must be some losses which the local manufacturers producing the products have. And the third one is that there must be some proof, the causal relations between the dramatic increase of the imports of the products and the damages which the local manufacturer could have because of the dramatic increase of the imports. But this time, this measure, safeguard measure taken by the USA government, they do not prove those kind of three things. Because of this one, the Korean government insists that this is not subject to safeguard measures. But USA government insists that no, they have enough proof to make the safeguard measures against the South Korean products.
So how big are these tariffs?
Well, in fact, for the 1.2 million units of the residential washing machine, they impose a 20% tariffs. But for the units exceeding the quota, they impose about a 50% tariffs. So this is really big differences. And about the tariff rates, below quota tariff rates goes down 18% and 16% in the second year and the third year respectively. And for the units exceeding the quota, the tariff rates goes down also 45% and 50% in the second year and the third year respectively. On the solar panels,
and modules.
Yes, modules, cells and modules, the tariff rates will range 30% to 15% over the next 4 years.
Okay.
So definitely it can be a big burden on the Korean manufacturer, producing the washing machines and solar panels.
And I know you mentioned this a little bit earlier in the first question, but the Korean government says that these measures are unfair and it plans to file a petition to the World Trade Organization. So, do these measures actually violate the WTO rules like the government is saying?
We have to wait and see, but the one thing which I want to underline is once they start an investigation, normally it will take about 3 years.
Wow.
While the 3 years, the USA government will impose the additional tariffs to protect their domestic industries. So definitely it can be a big loss, practically speaking, for the Korean manufacturers. But one thing which I want to add it up is that, at the moment, because of these safeguard measures taken by the USA government, the Korean manufacturers will get some damages in their business activities. But I'm really concerned about future damages which the Korean manufacturers could have. Because considering the sales volume, in case of Samsung, they have about a $26 billion sales volume. And then the LG, they have about 6.4 billion dollars sales volume. Well, total sales volume of the washing machines in USA market was about the $1 billion. So considering the total sales volume which the Samsung and LG have, well, at the moment, it is quite some negative factor on these two manufacturers, but it's quite managed to overcome it at the moment. But considering the USA government, the policy, they have empathized American first policies. That means that they will take such a kind of protective measures continuously. Then without preparing for those kind of the American government policy, we cannot reduce the damages caused by the American first policy. So we have to prepare for the American government first American policies. We have to prepare for it.
All right. Then, how likely do you think Korea is going to win this case once it petitions to the WTO?
Well, there must be high possibility. But the point we are really concerned about is actually even the WTO, we won the case, but the problem is that the USA government did not accept the outcomes.
Right.
Well, as you know very well, in 2013, USA government imposed anti-dumping duties on the Korean washing machine. And in 2016, we won the case. But until right now, USA government did not accept the decisions made by WTO. So what kind of the responses we could make? Then maybe we will take another, the protective measures to reduce the imports from the USA. So the trade war maybe could start.
Okay.
Well, as we know very well, we are right now in the renegotiation for Korea-USA FTA. So this is certainly contradictory, isn't it? So definitely, we do not want to have such a kind of situation. But if USA stick to current American first policy, we cannot eliminate the possibility, the outbreak of the trade war between two countries.
Then what kind of impact do you think the latest safeguard measures have on the ongoing negotiations over the Chorus FTA?
As I already explained very briefly, in case of the washing machines, because of the, owing to the Korea-US FTA, the tariff rates imposed by USA government on the Korean washing machine is about 0.3%.
Okay.
So, as we just discussed before, the tariff rates which the USA government tried to impose, based on the safeguard measures taken by the government, USA government this time, big differences. So it could be a negative impact on the renegotiation for Korea-US FTA. Why? Because, the options, responses which South Korean government can take is maybe, as I already explained, the Korean government just tried to change the USA government policy. But if they do not change, then what we can do right now is that we are going to take some measures to restrict imports from the USA. Because, of course, we have to concern about this point. That means that we cannot restrict imports from all items of products from the United States. We have to select some items of products which we can replace. We can find another, the exporters of those items which are needed for us. That means if we cannot change the trading partner to import some specific items, we cannot restrict the imports of that items. But if we can find the alternative exporters, then we can restrict the imports of those items from the United States. So definitely there must be some possibility of the trade conflicts between two countries.
Now, earlier you talked about the damage that Korean businesses are going to suffer because of these measures, but then these measures weren't something that just came out of nowhere. They were kind of expected from the U.S., especially from the Trump administration. So what kind of countermeasures have Korean businesses have in place in regards to these measures?
On the short-term basis, definitely we can keep on increasing our foreign direct investment in the United States. Very recently, LG announced that they will do their best to complete their, the project in the in U.S. Tennessee, and they want to, by doing so, they want to increase their production in the United States. And Samsung had the same plan. So on the short-term basis, we have to increase the local production volume. That is one of the ways which taken by the Korean manufacturers in the short-term basis. But on the long-term basis, Korea should have to change the economic structure, trading structure. That means the weight of the USA as our trading partner is too heavy. We have to diversify our trading partners. We have to develop new trading relations or strengthen our trading relations with the Southeast Asian countries, Middle Eastern countries, even African countries. That will be one of the most important measures which South Korean government should take. And if I add one more thing, that by focusing on more high valued and more high technology intensive the products, we call it Japanese and German model. That means that the Americans cannot restrict the imports of such a kind of very technically intensive items of products because they cannot find the exporters of those products. So by changing our items, exporting items from less technology-intensive items or products to more technology-intensive items. That is one of the ways which the South Korean manufacturers could take to minimize the damages caused by the American First policy.
So at this point, we're kind of wondering, I mean, these safeguard measures could hurt American businesses in the long run, don't you think?
No, because I mean,
Okay.
yes or no, because on a specific industry, yes, the American consumers will have some losses. But after the American First policy was taken by the American government, look at the American economic situations. Their economic growth rate seems to be reached to about 3%, and unemployment rate in the United States have been lowered. So as a whole, the USA, I mean, Mr. Trump, are satisfied with their American First policy. Even though what I'm saying is that in some few specific industries, the consumers will have some, I mean, less options. But as a whole, national level, USA, I mean, government does not have any reasons to change the American First policy at the moment.
And what's also interesting is that these measures came amid the ongoing negotiations over NAFTA, as well as President Trump's upcoming trip to the World Economic Forum on Thursday, local time, I believe. So what could be a hidden reason behind this, other than the reasons that we talked about earlier?
Well, before answering your question, I want to explain the differences between the negotiation with the NAFTA and that with the Asian countries. In case of negotiation with NAFTA, they got the approval from the USA Congress. But for the renegotiation for Korea-US FTA, they did not get any approval from the Congress. That means they don't want to change big changes in the negotiation, for Korea-US FTA. But in case of NAFTA, they want to change, big change, at the negotiation for NAFTA. So considering these aspects, definitely the safeguard measures issued by the USA government against South Korean manufacturers seems to be a kind of the warming up for the negotiation with NAFTA member countries.
So with Trump's America First policies and growing trade protectionism within the U.S., I mean, eyes are also on what Trump might be saying during his speech at the World Economic Forum. What can we expect there?
Well, he will, I think he will emphasize the fairness in the trade. He denied that the USA is not taking protectionistic trade measures.
Okay.
They just take those measures because of the unfair trading practices
By other countries. On the U.S.
So I think he will emphasize these aspects at the summit, the coming meeting. And so, but for the countries participating in the conference, definitely we could accept it as the returning to the protectionism in their trade policy.
Are there any other measures that the Korean government could take in regards to the safeguard measures other than petitioning to the WTO?
Well, definitely we have to prepare for the American First policy. I think for a time being, USA government will keep their policy. That means we have to do something to minimize the damages caused by the American First policy. That is, as I already explained, on the long-term basis, we have to diversify our trading relations. That means that we have to reduce the importance of the USA as our trading partners, particularly in terms of their portion in our total trade. That would be one of the most important measures we have to take. And the second one, which I want to emphasize, as I told you before, we have to change the items of the exporting items. Then we have to focusing on more value-added, more technical intensive products. By doing so, our trading partners could not change. Could not restrict the exports of our products to their country. If they can easily find another producer of those kind of products, they can easily change their trading partners, replacing the Korea. So we have to get some lessons from the Japanese experiences and the German experiences.
Right, so find new growth engines and also reduce dependence on exports altogether. And now, of course, this trade conflict is not confined only between Korea and the U.S. because it seems like a trade war is brewing between China and the U.S.
Yes, of course. And I think the USA will take those kind of measures against every country in the world if they need. So China will be another target, and then Korea became the target. And so every country can be the target of the American First policy, I think.
All right. Thank you so much for your insight today.
My pleasure.
And that brings us to the end of our program. But make sure to tune in to Arirang News for more domestic and global news updates throughout the day. Thanks for watching and see you soon.